Okay, let's start with a wild idea. What if a novel wasn't just, a story, but was actually a mathematical proof? I mean, what if every single decision a character makes, every emotional moment, could be boiled down to an equation? Well, that's the wild premise behind the book we're going to deconstruct today, The Entropy of Silence.
Right from the get-go, the book hits you with this line. And this is our first big clue, right? It's telling us straight up that we're stepping into a world that doesn't run on normal story logic. Nope. This world runs on pure, cold mathematics.
So, let's dive into this world of equations. Our guide, if you will, is the protagonist, Umair. And for Umair, seeing the world isn't enough. He has to quantify it. Everything, and I mean everything, is just a variable in this giant cosmic system he sees all around him.
And for Umair, nothing is ever just what it is. I mean, get this. His desk? That's not a desk. It's the origin, the 0, 0 on his personal coordinate grid. The coffee cup on it? Its temperature is dropping according to a totally predictable decay formula. And his own identity? Who he is? Yeah, that's just a polynomial curve mapping out his skills. He is literally living inside a mathematical grid that he's built in his own mind.
So, into this perfectly ordered, predictable world, something new arrives. It's just a notification on a screen, right? But to Umair, no way. He sees it as a delta function. If you're not familiar, that's a concept from physics. It's like this sudden, almost infinite spike of information. A massive disruption that just changes everything in a split second.
And the effect? Oh, it's instant, and for him, it's totally measurable. You see, before this, his life was basically a clean graph, a linear regression with a really high correlation. Super predictable. But now there's this new, unknown variable. Let's call it X in the system, and all his data points are starting to go haywire. The whole equation of his life is starting to, well, it's starting to break down.
Okay, so this is the moment where we need to pull back. We've been following Umair's story, right? But what the author is doing here is so much deeper. What if everything we've just seen, the character, the plot twists, what if that's all just the surface? What if it's really the setup for a formal, logical proof?
Because that's exactly what it is. Underneath the story you're reading, there's a hidden blueprint. See, the entropy of silence wasn't just written, it was constructed. It's a deterministic system built from the ground up on a formal structure where every single word has been placed with, mathematical precision.
The whole philosophy driving this is something called the mathematical numeric stance, and it's a pretty wild idea. It basically says that even the messiest, most abstract parts of being human, stuff like love, grief, memory, can be treated as quantifiable variables. They're not random, they're not chaotic. They're the predictable output of an equation. And the way it's built is on this fractal, recursive structure, where the same pattern repeats itself no matter how close you zoom in. So on the biggest scale, the macro structure, a whole chapter acts like a global variable. Zoom in a little to the Meso structure, and each paragraph is basically a function, calculating the next emotional state of the character. And then you go all the way down to the micro level, and every single sentence is a discrete data point, a vector of meaning. It's incredible.
And you can actually see this whole structure mapped out perfectly across the book's 7 chapters. Each one lines up directly with a mathematical concept that also drives the theme. So chapter 1 is called Initial Condition. That's when Umair finds the anomaly. Makes sense, right? And then chapter 4, the climax of the story, it's called the Singularity. That's the point where logic completely collapses. It's this perfect, beautiful fusion of storytelling and pure math.
Okay, so if this whole story is really a system, that means we should be able to prove a part of it, right? Let's try it. Let's take one tiny, simple moment from the narrative and see if we can break it down into an actual formal logical proof. All right, so the story tells us 2 things happen. First, he clicked, and second, he felt a resonance. Now, in this book's hidden system, those aren't just words on a page. He clicked is proposition A, the action. Since it happened, we give it a state of 1 for true. Then, he felt a resonance is proposition B, the awareness. That happened too, so it also gets a 1. Simple enough.
Now we can actually run a logical proof. Premise 1, the action happened. A equals 1. True. Premise 2, the awareness happened. B equals 1. Also true. So in Boolean logic, the operation A and B is only true if both parts are true. And since we have 1 and 1, the result is 1. The whole proposition, the combined event, is logically and mathematically true.
And there it is. That's the result.
It's not a feeling, it's not an interpretation. It's a hard, definitive, binary outcome. 1. True. The system holds up. The event in the story has just been proven.
But hold on, because it goes even deeper. We've peeled back the story to find the proof, but what's underneath the proof? There's a whole other foundational language, and this one isn't made of words at all. It's made of symbols, of simple shapes and colors.
So for example, in this fundamental language, a solid gold circle isn't just a pretty picture, it's a defined term. It literally represents the mathematical formula for its area, pi r squared.
And then you've got, say, a deep blue square. That's another term in this visual dictionary. Its definition? Its area squared. Every single one of these core elements has a super precise symbolic meaning.
Or maybe a red gradient triangle, which of course is defined by its own area formula. All of these symbols together, they're the absolute rock-bottom building blocks of this entire fictional universe.
And here's the part that is just absolutely wild. These symbols aren't just static definitions. They can be used in computations. The system can literally calculate the intersection of the gold circle and the blue square to find their area of overlap. It can perform a vector sum by adding the triangle and a line. This isn't just window dressing, it's a functioning visual programming language that is the engine running the whole story.
So let's just recap. We have a story that's built on a logical proof, which is itself built on a symbolic language of shapes and colors. You have to wonder why. Why go through all this trouble? What's the point of this incredibly complex approach to just telling a story? Well, I think there are a few huge takeaways here. For one, it's a brand new way to think about storytelling, right? It's merging the cold, hard rigor of mathematics with the messy reality of human emotion. It also makes you wonder if all art could be seen as a system, not just some random flash of inspiration, but a deterministic logical framework. And that, of course, leads us to the biggest question of all about determinism versus free will. If our actions are just the outcomes of an equation, are they really our choices?
And that's really the final equation the book leaves you to solve. It builds this entire unbelievable system, not just for the sake of being clever, but to corner you with this one profound question. If all of our choices can be proven, if they're just the logical outcome of all the inputs that came before, are they truly our own?